Welcome to another episode of the SOULcially Responsible podcast. I'm your host, Bridget, here with my loyal companion and sidekick, Fergus. I'm in my feelings right now, and astrologically, there's something going on that has us all in our feelings when it comes to core wounding. Now, I don't pretend to know enough to explain the astrology. You got to listen to Ghost of a Podcast for that. But I do tune into how I'm feeling internally, and I'm noticing the thoughts, and also listening to an astrology forecast helps give some perspective to what is going on. Also, as a person who bleeds monthly, I also track that cycle, how the body is feeling and the emotions. So I have an app and I track that. It's called Stardust. And also part of the astrology, following the cycles of the moon and noticing when I bleed on a new moon or a full moon and how all of that is tied together. And the more you start to pay attention to those things, you start to really understand the energetics at play, at work, in motion. I don't know what the right word is. Human words don't have enough, right? Because they're human words. Anyway, right now I am in a course that is going to lead to a certification of being able to go into what are called the Akashic Records. And I'll be able to, with permission from whoever I'm supporting, I can go into the records and help get curious. I think that's really the best way to put it. So it's going to be like 4 or 5 months of this work, but part of the beginning of this process is tuning into and noticing and working with the internal energy that is within each being and everything, right? Because everything's just like a bunch of stuff that's vibrating together, okay? It's science. And when we start to understand that there are multiple even layers of us, I'm not just talking about like the skin layer and the tissue layer and the muscle, like I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the subtle bodies, the energetic layers of the human being, and sensing that and feeling that and working to make sure that me, Bridget in this body, is responsible for Bridget in this body. Just like we have to take our cars to get inspected every so often and make sure, just like we go get a checkup, we owe it to ourselves, to everyone, because we are one, to Mother Earth, to the universe, to take care of our own business, right? The trees don't shout out to us, hey, humans, get over here and take care of me. No, they do their own thing to take care of themselves. And yeah, okay, we medicate and exercise and meditate and drink water, and great, good. Why do we do it? Because we're energetic beings and we need to refuel our energy. And part of refueling our energy is also powering down. That's why we sleep. That's why stillness serves. Constant doing is not helpful, and society really fights against that, the way that we live. And so if we can each take more ownership and accountability right here, right here, right here, yourself, not them, her, him, they, whatever, you, not selfish, so loving, so loving. I am learning all of this again. When we're children, it's just, we're open vessels. And as experiences happen, it seems like we are those experiences. And yet we are not. We are not our thoughts. We are not our experiences. That stuff becomes part of who we think we are. And how could it be otherwise? When you're a child and you're observing the world, you learn to make meaning of what's happening around you. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we have language that assigns meaning to things. And as you start to make meaning of things as a child, and especially if you're a child who doesn't have somebody to extrapolate from you what you're thinking or how you're processing, things get internalized. And when you internalize things, where do they go? Because everything is energy, even your thoughts. Where does it go? Well, it goes right into your body and it goes right out into the universe. And so you're walking around with some like subconscious messaging that you didn't ask for, that you experienced, and now resides there if we don't get in there and just like recalibrate, notice, work with what's there. So I'm working on getting curious with anger. I've been very curious with jealousy for a long time. And now I'm starting to understand that anger is also a great opportunity, if not one of the best or the best opportunities to get curious. Because so often underneath anger really is fear and sadness. I have with me some of the articles. My grandma Egan, Grandma Mary, she was a librarian. She saved, I love her so much. She saved every single article about my mom. My mom was a news anchor, a journalist. And at the time, it was like she was a journalist like in the late 70s through the 80s and the 90s. And in the late 70s and the 80s, and even into the 90s, like that's how people got their information, was like the 5, 6, and 11 o'clock news. We didn't have the internet and we didn't have Instagram and we didn't have podcasts, right? People had appointment newscasts, and my mom was a local celebrity. And I think I forgot, or, when things are happening and you're in them, it's just like, well, this is my life. So it doesn't really have the same, whoa, that's crazy that happened effect as when you look back on it, let's say. And so I have these articles about my mom and they talk about me too. And I'm like, wow, I was this teenager whose life was literally printed in the paper, with my mom's picture is in the paper. And like, I mean, it great, and it talks about, how she got fired and how my dad had been her boss. Where did it go? It said, okay, my mom's last name is Egan. Egan returned to local television news after a stint doing car commercials a little more than a year ago. She began to anchor on Sundays about 9 months ago. Roughly 3 years ago, before her return to the news, Egan, a Ballston Lake native, had been fired from her WRGB Channel 6 job, where her husband, trailing spouse Neil Goldstein, was then the assistant news director. Last year, Egan, now 43, said that she had received a memo from Channel 6 news director Gary Whitaker 4 months before she was fired, saying her job as the station's lead woman anchor was in danger because of her aging appearance. Right. So, I mean, nobody hid this from me. So I'd like read this. Oh, people think my mom looks old. My mom, why is, just like internalizing it, not asking questions. And then what happens? I go to college, I graduate, get a job as a TV journalist. And then what happens? I start internalizing, oh my God, I'm old, I'm getting old. At 26, I say to my friend who's dating a doctor, hey, does your doctor boyfriend know anybody who I could go to talk about like how to stay looking young? And she was like, yeah, go to this dermatologist that he knows. So I go, and they never said anything about, skincare or washing your face or sun protection. They went right to, again, I was 26, Botox. So I started Botox at 26. 26. So this has been going, I'm considering giving it up because it's like, what? And And then I started doing my lips. I mean, just trying to keep up, and no wonder. Like, this is how I grew up reading this stuff. And there's this other article about, and it talks. Okay, here. Bridget is Egan's 15-year-old daughter, a junior at Burnt Hills Ballston Lake Central. Forget the news. Being Bridget's mother is Egan's top job. Okay, here we go. Oh, she's blunt about why she thinks WRGB fired her. They told me I looked old, she said. She was 38. Egan's return to broadcasting in July 94 after an absence of 3 years came as her marriage to Goldstein broke up and she needed a job to support herself. The two are now divorced. It's like, that's my life. Nobody was like, hey, how do you feel about having your life in the newspaper and having everybody know your business, even though they don't know you? How does that feel? Nobody asked. Nobody checked. And that's okay, because I'm not blaming anyone, because everybody was in the experience. But now as an adult, I get to look back and step outside of me and say, oh, honey, that was hard. That was hard. And wow, you went through a lot. And you can choose now to do better for your kids and to be more aware of your own self. I want to talk more about the anger exploration piece. And of course, I'm going to share more about my journey becoming certified as an Akashic Records reader. Thanks for joining another episode of the SOULcially Responsible podcast. Fergus is now choosing this as a great time to clean his paws. So, bye.